Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, Cesar Espino, and today I have a special guest, Raymond, who is a multi-talented individual, embraces the roles of entrepreneur, musician, and a co-founder of Podcast Connection. When the COVID pandemic led to the infinite suspension of live music shows, Raymond faced the necessity to shift away from the music entertainment industry. Undeterred by his lack of prior experience and capital, he embarked on a bootstrap journey to establish a company from scratch. Through his relentless efforts, Podcast Connection not only achieved profitability each year, but also created employment opportunities for numerous South Africans. This accomplishment enabled Raymond to overcome the burden of personal debt amounting to $35,000 within a year in the past 3 years. Podcast Connection served well over 70 plus clients, and Raymond and his team agents have successfully booked a number of guest speakers on over 900 podcasts, some of which generate 50,000 plus downloads per episode. Driven by the passion of forging connection and making a positive impact on others' lives, Raymond enthusiastically explores avenues to enrich individuals' experiences through the realms of music and the captivating world of podcast PR and marketing. It is a pleasure to have Raymond Rattey. Hey, Raymond, how are you?
Hey, Cesar, I'm doing great, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. You definitely, I love that the idea and even just knowing the fact that you started from scratch and you've done so many different things. It's interesting how the pandemic and going through all of that, it really put out a lot of different people, and people have to strategize and create something different. And I always tell people that from that, something was born that probably they didn't even know that they had, right? So I definitely want to dive in more into that in a bit. But why don't we start by you telling us a little bit about your background? Where are you originally from, and how was your upbringing?
Sure. So I definitely agree with you that in adversity, we have to come up with new, different ideas. And that's where I originated with the business idea from. But before that, I was more of a musician. I grew up in South Africa. My family was also musical, so ended up studying music, and I was in the States for 3 years, played some music over there, worked with a few bands over there, and I was actually very fortunate enough to play with some of the big artists here in South Africa. So it's a privilege to be a part of the music industry, because it feels like a job that's not really as challenging or as time consuming as other professions, because mainly you're working on the weekends and such, and it's a lot of fun being out on the road and playing big stages. But as COVID came into play, that quickly ripped the rug underneath most musicians' feet and people in the entertainment music business. So that kind of forced us a little bit to stand together and to come up with some new ideas. So that's where the idea of Podcast Connection came from, with my business partner, who was also a musician. He was also playing with some big artists here in South Africa. And we then ended up going, well, what do we do now that there's no more gigs? All the music has been stopped, the shows and such. So then we had to pivot into more of a business direction, which is something that was very new to us. That was about 3 years ago, up into the point where we were able to at least start a business and successfully start generating income from other sources, which was not too far from the music industry, but it definitely had its own set of challenges.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So are you originally from South Africa, or where are you originally from?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
I'm originally South African, but I've had some experience living abroad in Dubai and in the US as well.
Gotcha, gotcha. And was that for like for music, or that was just kind of exploring? Yeah.
Yeah, those were mainly for music. When I was in Dubai, it was more business driven. I was looking to expand the business a little bit more in Dubai, but I came back to South Africa last year in August in 2022.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. So tell me, like, obviously, again, the pandemic did a lot of different things for different people, right? Um, why venture into podcasting, or doing that as opposed to anything else? Where did that idea come from?
Yeah, so obviously a lot of the businesses were moving online, marketing was moving more online, and I entertained the idea of becoming more like an online musician, where you'd maybe do work through Fiverr and some of those kind of platforms, session work or contractual work. But the podcasting idea came from just listening to a lot of podcasts and seeing that there was a demand for a lot of episodes or a lot of podcasts like yourself that are interviewing people on a regular basis. And I thought, okay, well, we can actually end up booking people on podcasts and go into the direction of starting an agency. So when we started the business, it was a bit of a shot in the dark because we didn't know if it was going to work or not. But after we ended up getting 3 or 4 clients, my business partner and I both looked at this and saw this is not only a hustle or opportunity to make income during COVID, but this is actually something that we can grow and scale.
Yeah, no, that's huge. That's definitely big. And so, tell me a little bit about the obviously you had to scale, because a lot of people, again, even regardless whether it's the pandemic or not, a business, right? Or starting something from scratch. That's, as you mentioned, it's always kind of challenging, right? Give me a couple of takeaways, or some things that really helped you guys kind of take this idea, put it into a paper plan, right? And then start the action. What were those steps, or what were some of the things that you guys did to kind of make it to where it is now?
It's funny. I can still remember when we started the business, it was a rainy day, and I
Yeah.
looked outside and I felt very ambitious to start this new business. And I guess what we did from scratch was, first of all, just design a website. So I mean, there's a lot of cool applications out there to build your own websites these days. And obviously we created some email signatures, and we took some professional photos. We actually took the photos just with an iPhone and edited out the background with Photoshop and made it look a bit more like a studio kind of shot. And from there on, after we had the basics in place of just having a reputable website and some social media presence, we started just reaching out to potential clients, asking them if we can book them on podcasts. So generally, our pitch was something along the lines of like, "Hey, we heard you on another show. We think that what you have to say or what you're talking about is valuable. Maybe we can book you on some more podcasts." And that got the ball rolling. And from the point of starting a team, it was quite a challenge integrating new people in the business, because we obviously had to, at a point, start outsourcing some more of the work other than just my business partner and I doing the bulk of the work. So yeah, from there on, we were very blessed to have people in our circles. There's a lot of South Africans that don't have work here, since the unemployment rate is quite high here. So, but there's a lot of skilled workers around here. So we started getting 1 or 2 girls that worked with us. And from there on, as we just got more clients, we started employing more and more people to work with us. And it's awesome to be able to have South Africans be able to generate an income from an online platform where all they're doing is working from home, doing emails and Zoom calls and such. So it was quite the what's it called, like the glass breaking effect for me as well, like thinking, oh wow, you can actually make income from your own home out of the internet. So yeah, it was definitely an exciting journey to embark on when we started this.
Yeah, what's fascinating too is the idea of again starting something that really I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like there was no, you guys didn't really have any background. This it's not like you're tapping into an industry or something that you already have some experience in. So that to me is fascinating because again, oftentimes, you don't know what you don't know, right? And a lot of times it's like you can probably tap into something that you've never done before, like you did, and you guys randomly started, contacting clients and say, hey, we can do this for you guys, and you guys never really had that proof of concept. Except now you do, right?
Correct. Yeah. I think one good thing is like the music industry has some good skills that it helps you develop, such in the sense of
Mm.
like selling yourself, and you're only as good as your last gig. And there's a few good lessons I've learned being part of the music industry. Also, like when you're working as a hired gun for some artists, there is a sense of loyalty, but at the end of the day, you're still fulfilling a contractual job that at any stage they can rather hire another musician. So there's also the aspect of building a relationship with your clients, because I think there's more longevity when you have a relationship with your clients. So some of these aspects that we've picked up in the music industry has helped us also in the podcasting industry. And I've always told people that musicians are glorified alcohol promoters, especially here in South Africa, because we
Yeah.
get on a stage, and after we done playing, people are just continuing drinking, and that's why the festivals get us. That's why the venues get us to come and make some entertainment over there, is to get the people to buy more alcohol.
Yeah, that's actually a good point for sure. The more music there is, the more consumption there is. So everybody wins. What kind of clients
Exactly.
do you guys have, like, or the people that come to you and say, hey, I want to get some sort of placement with with your company and things like that and help us out. What kind of people do you guys get?
Wow, Caesar, we actually have quite a diverse like category of clients that we work with. We've
Yeah.
got a lot of business-based clients that obviously have a product or a service that they're trying to get exposure for. So they'll go speaking on podcasts. We've got a client who's got a very interesting concept of email management
Hmm.
and how to delegate that and free up your time from emails and such. So yeah, we've got a lot of business-based clients that talk about marketing, SEO, crypto, those kind of categories. And then we've got a little bit more holistic practitioners, such as yoga instructors and meditation guides and those kind of people. We've got relationship guides and coaches, people who talk about intimacy, or we've got a lot of clients that have written books. They want to get some exposure for their books, like they've written books about maybe childhood abuse and how to get some healing from those kind of aspects. So our client base is quite wide, from entrepreneurs to holistic practitioners to authors and such. But yeah, we've covered a big ground of podcasts that we've worked with also in these multiple categories.
Yeah, got you. No, that's huge. And so let me take it back a little bit. And again, I think anyone that embarks into even a musician, right? I mean, obviously, you're still, whether you're working for somebody else, and you're doing music, and or you're doing it for yourself. You're booking your own gigs. Talk about being an entrepreneur and having that mindset. Um, there's a lot that goes with that, and again, it starts with that mindset. So I'm interested to know more about from you about um embarking into this journey. Obviously you were kind of forced into it, even when you were doing the musician. How was your mindset, or what have you done to yourself, right, in terms of that internal teachings to help you really overcome some of those things, right, and step into those places?
That's a very good question. So I think a lot of art forms help you to develop some discipline.
Mm.
And I think that becoming a musician, you've all heard of the like 10,000 hours you have to put into a craft. So putting that time into your instrument basically enforces your skill and makes you more desirable as a contractor or a session musician. In that sense, you've got to be able to read music, or you've got to be able to work out music by your ear, and you've got to be able to play alongside a band. And not only that aspect, there's also the social aspect of it. You've got to be a nice guy to be around, because a lot of times you're being on the road and you're on tour and such. So there's many aspects of a musician and growing as a musician, but also, as you mentioned, an entrepreneur, where you can be the best musician, but you can also be the best kept secret. So if nobody knows about you, they're not going to be able to reach out to you and say, hey, we've got a gig for you. Are you able to play this? So a lot of times in the music industry, you get musicians that end up either double booking themselves, or maybe they can't make a gig anymore, and that's where you get a shot then to play for a band or for an artist. And if they like what you're able to bring to the table, then they book you again. So it's a lot of networking as well. So I know it's hard if you've got an online business to do this, but if you've got a brick and mortar business, or a business where you are extending out your services for hire, then it's really, really valuable to just network and to be able to speak to people who will potentially hire you. So I guess just growing your PR, just growing that aspect of a musician. So obviously, moving into the podcasting world, connections is also very important there. For us, we have to have good relations with podcasts. We've got to have good relations with our partners in the industry as well. We've got a few partners who are book publishing agents. So generally, when their clients are releasing a book and they're asking the question how we get exposure for this book, then they refer them to us and say, well, go speak on a few podcasts. This is really good exposure for a new release book. So yeah, I guess just relations, networking, and building up your skill to the point where you're in demand would be the answer to that.
Yeah, no, you know what, and I like that. I like the fact that you mentioned that, and the networking is a huge part of this, and a piece to that, right? And even to the point where, again, you mentioned something, said branding, right? You got to be able to start branding yourself, and so I think for anyone that is doing, it doesn't matter what kind of business you're doing. If you're an entrepreneur, you always got to be branding yourself somehow, right? And so I like the idea of, obviously getting on some sort of articles, publications. Except again, one of the best things that I feel you can definitely get your name out is podcasts, because as you know now, there's so many people that are always listening to podcasts worldwide, and so it's a good way for you to kind of get some exposure and get your name or your brand or whatever it is that you have to offer out into the world, right? I mean, I think that's a good way to do it. Yeah. So
For sure. Yeah. I just wanted to mention on podcasting, I feel like it's the next on-demand medium that's exploding. Because if you think about it, 20 years ago, I used to go into a CD or a records shop, and I used to buy a CD. Now it's all on my phone.
yeah.
Like a few years ago, I used to go to a video store and you used to go collect a video for the weekend that you can watch a movie or something. Now all that's on your phone. So I feel like radio is making the next transition now to podcasting. If you just look at CNN, their statistics are made public a while ago. I can't remember the exact statistics, but the amount that CNN is spending to get a fraction of the listeners that somebody like Joe Rogan is getting is astronomical. And the costs of having a podcast versus having a news or a radio distribution is very, very small compared to what these bigger like companies are spending on radio or TV broadcasting.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. Let's dive into this. I like what you have, and there's in my notes here, one of the things that you want to live with to the listeners and the viewers is this, and I want you to kind of elaborate more on this, because I think it's actually a really good point. And your messages, don't be stiff-led by career-changing decisions, and find like-minded individuals who will inspire you and motivate you. Right, and elaborate more on that, because I think that message there is very powerful. A lot of times we do get stiffed by a career change, or the fear of the unknown, or how am I gonna make it? Can I really come out of this, right? Do I believe in myself? Like in your case, right? Like the fact that you've never done podcasts, connecting people in that way is like, can I really do this, right? So that's that. So that's the first half. The second half, we kind of talked about it, which is the networking and branding. Except again, I want to get your take on surrounding yourself with individuals that are going to inspire you and motivate you. So if you can touch on that.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess the first part of your question is finding like-minded individuals. And I would say that if you're starting a business, it's not a bad idea to find a business partner who is going to motivate you, and also going to have a different set of skill sets that's going to attribute to the business. And it was quite amazing. The very first few people that started working with us, some of them have actually stuck with us now for the past 2 to 3 years. The agents that work for us actually also inspire us so much, because a lot of times they'll get excited about the bookings that they're making, or they'll take so much responsibility for the clients that they're working with, and they truly also enjoy the work that they do. And that sometimes you can't have your motivation be money. It has to be other people that are also integrated into the greater picture of, or the greater scheme of things, so it's really motivational and inspiring to have people that you work with that also sometimes maybe carry you through the times when you're not feeling as motivated, or maybe if the business is taking a hit or two, it can be hard to stay motivated, losing a few big clients, or like if someone in the team quits or finds a different opportunity to work for. So it can be really challenging to stay motivated. So it helps to have other individuals that also are still motivated with you doing something, because if you've got to rely on yourself, it can definitely stifle you. So, and then the other thing is, I think a lot of times we are presented with opportunities that we don't feel like we are good enough to fulfill, or that we don't have what it takes. But just doing it and taking that first step is sometimes the pushing that rock off of the heel. As soon as it starts rolling and you gain momentum, then it really helps. And also, I think there's some neural scientists who have said that as soon as you start something new, like a different gear kicks in your head, and you get all excited about it and such. So yeah, it's that thing of your nerves being excitement and anxiety being the same nerve pulling on both ends, kind of thing. So I guess just getting over that and over your own inadequacies and fears.
Yeah, no, I love that. No, that's big, and definitely, again, I would always tell people, do not let the fear of the unknown take away the opportunity that's in front of you, right? A lot of times that's the problem, that there's so many opportunities, and sometimes those opportunities are shaped in a way that we don't recognize them, or they look ugly. Except, again, it is that opportunity that maybe you have been looking for, and because it doesn't look nice and shiny, we tend to walk away from that. So never be afraid of that opportunity or the unknown. Definitely, there's ways that anybody can definitely take on those opportunities and make them the best for them. So don't be afraid of that. In terms of people wanting to connect with you, learn more about Podcast Connection, like where can they find more about you and your services?
Sure. So I would recommend anybody to check out our free course. We just released a free course on how to book yourselves on podcasts. And for that, you can go to podcastconnection.org/get booked now. So that would be a good way to experience us a little bit as well, because it's like a video course, and we've got some quizzes in there, and just some interactive ways of doing the course. So if people want to experience what we do a little bit more, they can go check out our free course. Or if anybody is looking for an agent to book them on podcasts, a lot of times it's quite time consuming booking yourself on podcasts, reaching out to a bunch of shows, and then the admin behind it. So if anybody's ever done that before, it can be quite time consuming. So if anybody is looking for a agent to book them on podcasts, then they can also just go check out our website.
Awesome. And then in terms of I'm always interested to learning about habits, right? Tony Robbins talks about rituals, or I call them daily habits. What kind of daily habits do you have? What are some of the things that you do on a day-to-day basis?
So I've got a pretty ridiculous habit. Most people laugh at this, but I was about a few months ago, I saw this YouTuber talking about the part of your brain that that basically locks into like a beat for a musician, or like the part that helps with your rhythm, is actually part of your brain that also helps with your balancing, believe it or not. So I've been thinking, playing around with this yoga stretching exercise that also incorporates balancing. So all the exercises I do balancing to try and improve my balance, and also do some stretching and some meditation at the same time. So it's about a 10-15 minute routine. But yeah, I guess that would be one habit in the mornings, also just to incorporate a little bit of stretching and get your mind clear for the day. So that's definitely a good habit that I've been enforcing for the past 4 or 5 months now, is stretching, yoga, and a balancing routine.
Nice, nice. And how do you see having a habit or something that you do on a day-to-day basis that you know is going to help you kind of get to a different mental level? How critical is that? Because I know a lot of people, unfortunately, they don't do habits, right? They just get up and they do the norm, go to the restroom, get ready, and then kind of take off. Or they don't have any kind of habits, right? And not necessarily that you have to do them early in the day, which I do believe you should, for many different reasons. Except a lot of people don't do that. And so, why do you feel like that's a benefit, or what are some of the benefits of you having that and actually making that happen?
I think we as people are habitual creatures. So, like, if you look at any habit, if it's a good or a bad habit, the more you do something, the more you're enforcing that. So, with habits, it's always just, once again, the hardest to get it over the hill where the boulder starts running down the hill again, and just doing it for a few days or a few weeks until that habit is enforced. But I think it's a good thing to also start your day with a habit that you can then build on. And even just eating and sleeping at the same times has been proven to improve mood, and also just to be like beneficial to us. So yeah, habits are definitely the hardest thing. But I've heard something the other day where they say that you want to make decisions from your like from your brain. You want to make the decisions that's going to be good for you, and you're thinking about it. But at the end of the day, we don't make decisions based on that. We make decisions based on our emotions sometimes. So
Yeah.
it can be hard fighting against your emotions when it comes to enforcing new habits, and especially if it's going to take some willpower or some physical strength, or if you're doing exercising.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have one of my mentors. He talks about influence and persuasion and selling, and he actually talked about that. And I may not say it properly, but he'll say people do not make decisions based on logic. People make decisions based on emotions. And so even when you're
That's
trying
right.
to do like a selling, or you're trying to sell them something, whether it's a service or a product, yeah, obviously having the logic and why this makes sense is a good thing, because you want to be able to have that information. Except it's glad that building that rapport, building that connection with that person, because once you build that connection with that person, then they're making the decision based on the emotion and how they feel with what you have to offer or that service. And then obviously you're gonna back it up with the logic of this is the reason why. So that's the secondary thing. So I actually heard that, and it makes perfect sense. Where I know even before in the past, for me, it was like, no, like I wasn't even thinking about the emotions or connecting. I'm like, no, my product is the best product, or here be on get one of my books, or be on my podcast, or whatever that might be, right? Because I'm thinking logically without even thinking about the emotions. So that's actually a pretty good point, and it's a golden nugget for sure in this podcast. So yeah. So my
Thanks so
last
much.
question for you, is for the people that are listening to us, watching us right now, if they're going through any challenge, whatever challenge that might be, what is one thing that they can do so they can start overcoming that challenge?
Geez, man, I wish I had the perfect answer for this. I've been going through a little bit of a rough time mentally this past few months as well. Been
Mm-hmm.
battling a little bit with just some of my own inadequacies and like decisions I've made in the past. So it's a really hard question to answer. But what worked for me in my point of like desperation, or of my lowest point to get back on the horse and such, was just to like Jordan Peterson helped me a lot, actually. I'm going to give him some credit. Just he helps you get your life back together on track, and helps you think straight again, and take responsibility, and all those wonderful things that he teaches on. So I guess just find maybe a mental like a coach who can help you mentally, or somebody who's going to once again also help motivate you. And just having good friends and family can also be a good source of support. And I think that's what you need the most when you're going through a tough time, is if whether it's financially or personally with a relationship or whatever the case may be. It's just to have some support structure in place, and to do some self-help and some self-reflection as well. That really makes a big difference. So that's what worked for me pretty well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I love that. Thank you for sharing that for sure. I definitely agree that that's a good way to go about it. Raymond, again, it was such a pleasure having you here on the show. Is there anything else that you want to say before I let you go?
Thank you so much for having me, Caesar. Great show that you also are presenting over here. Just if anybody wants to connect with me, they're welcome to also follow me on LinkedIn and drop me a message there.
Awesome. Well, Raymond, again, thank you so much for being here, and I really appreciate that. And for the rest of you guys, thank you for being here. Do me a favor, please go ahead and share this message, because definitely somebody needs to hear this message. And I'll see you guys at the next episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform, where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.